Hello, everyone, and welcome to On Demand Views. This is Andrew Gaffney. I'm editor of Demand Gen Report. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be joined today in a video podcast with Carlos Hidalgo from the Inuitas Group. Carlos, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Pleasure to be with you.
So we wanted to catch up, Carlos. You and I spoke a couple of weeks ago about there seems to be some role reversal going on out there. Salespeople are getting more involved earlier in the funnel. We talk a lot and cover a lot in Demand Gen Report that marketing is now more intimately involved in the whole revenue process. Can you talk to us about that, about how roles are changing and where you see sort of good and potential challenges within that?
Yeah, I think ultimately the role is changing because the buyer has changed, and we've talked ad nauseum about that. I think there's been a lot written on the changing buyer. I think the role of marketing has changed in that marketing now needs to understand that they're as crucial to revenue production as sales has been for years. And I think that's definitely a mind shift for the traditional B2B marketer. So they have to get into that mindset and understand their goal is no longer just branding and communications, but really what are they doing to generate that quality engagement and that quality lead with their prospect and make sure that they have an understanding that's what they need to deliver to sales. I think for sales, their role is changing as well because you've got a much more educated and much more in tune and aligned buyer. And when I talk about alignment, they're much more aligned with what their needs are. And if you believe a lot of the research that's been pushed out there, you understand that some buyers have probably 70% of their buying process completed before they ever engage sales. So I think the shift for sales is to make sure that they are being involved in those discussions early on from a thought leadership perspective, not necessarily a sales perspective, and really help shape the conversation on the social networks and with their buyers who are out there looking for the answers that traditionally salespeople would have given them, but now they can get via social and other avenues from their peers.
So for the sales folks that are doing that well, it's about sharing content, it's about being a resource earlier on?
It is absolutely about being a resource earlier on. I was in a discussion a few weeks ago with several people at the Sales 2.0 conference, and one of the people made the statement, people want to buy from the smartest person in the room. And I don't know that you necessarily have to be the smartest, but you have to appear and you have to promote yourself as one of the smartest. And that means understanding not just your product, but understanding your buyer, understanding their needs, understanding the space at large, and even promoting some early adoptive thought on where the market is going. And that's what the salespeople who are getting it and doing it along this Buyer 2.0 framework, that's what they're doing, and they're having incredible success in doing that.
Right. You touched on alignment. Sales and marketing alignment has been discussed a lot over the past couple of years. And there was some thought, I think, that the lack of alignment was the problem. But as you and I have discussed, it's really much broader than that. Can you expand on where you're seeing that?
Yeah, I would have to believe that if sales and marketing alignment was truly the problem, it would have been solved by now because we've been writing about it for 25, 30 years. People have made livings on having organizations work with companies specifically to address this issue. So if that was truly the problem, it would be solved. I really believe it's a symptom of a greater problem. One of the things that we see is it's a symptom of a lack of process overall in a company, in that marketing has never sat down with sales and gone through the day in the life of a lead. What happens once we get a qualified lead, and how do we get that through to sales in a timely fashion so sales can have that meaningful dialogue with that prospect? So when we start to work with companies on that lead management process, lo and behold, we start to see the alignment issue go away. We start to see the pipeline open up and become a much more fluid pipeline rather than one that is only closing 2 to 3% of all marketing deals according to Serious Decisions studies. So when we talk about alignment, we don't necessarily address alignment as the problem. We believe it's a symptom of a greater problem. And I think one of the biggest problems is a lack of process in companies.
Good point. Now, the other thing that we may have oversimplified as thought leaders in the space is this area and the connection between lead management and marketing automation. Those are the only two core issues. You and I have talked recently that really marketing automation is kind of being redefined and how people are using it and what they're expecting from it. Can you talk about what you're seeing there?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you've got the confusion that marketing automation and lead management are indeed the same thing. Hopefully, we've done a good job as thought leaders in the marketing automation space to really define lead management as a process and marketing automation as a technology. But I also think automation is going through this redefining stage in that people are understanding, and you could even put lead management in this. It's really all about how are you engaging your customer. So automation is now being redefined as simply an enablement tool and not one that's going to change the dynamic of your company altogether. So even lead management is enabling you to have a better process by which you engage your customer. And I think organizations who are getting it are starting to understand that automation, lead management, revenue performance management, all of this has to be done with the customer as the focal point. If you don't have the customer as the focal point, you're going to have a lot of different silos in your organization, none of which come together. And some of those silos will be technology silos, some of them will be process silos, and some of them will be organizational silos.
So we talked about a few issues here, and I think it's been a recurring theme that some of these topics have been discussed now for quite some time. Are you finding that the market is catching up, or that sales and marketing is catching up with the changing buyer behavior? Is sophistication increasing among the companies and prospects that you're talking to?
I think in some areas it is increasing, albeit slowly. I believe there's still a major skills gap that is occurring with B2B marketers specifically on changing from that branding communications mindset into a true engagement model mindset. And so with that skills gap, of course, comes a lack of sophistication. I think the awareness is there in that companies understand that they need to start to put these processes in place. They need to develop some nurturing programs and better engagement. They need to start to formulate what content is going to be delivered at what time. As far as knowing how to do it and having the skill set internally and how to do it in a sophisticated manner, I really believe that's the gap that we're seeing in the market.
All right. I want to thank you for joining us today, Carlos. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Again, thanks for the opportunity. Pleasure to be here and hope to catch up with you soon.